Okay, so this particular card is the EVGA Ultra XC3 RTX 3080 graphics card. So I know some of you may be in the same situation as me where you have a GTX 1080 and you're considering upgrading to an RTX 3080. So if you guys have any questions at all on whether it's worth it, comment down below and I'll be happy to answer your questions. And so now let me tell you what you'll see in this video. I'm gonna go ahead and unbox this for you guys to see what you get with this card, see how it looks, see how big it is compared to the GTX 1080. And I'll show you some of the things such as how many power cables you're gonna need for the PCI Express connectors for the graphics card. So after I show you guys the card, I'm gonna go ahead and pop it in my gaming PC here. I'm gonna take out that old GTX 1080 and I'm gonna pop in the RTX 3080. Stick around for all that good stuff and let's get right into opening up the RTX 3080. And cut! Okay, so what I have in front of me is the EVGA Ultra XC3 RTX 3080 graphics card. So I'm gonna go ahead and open it up for you guys and show you what's in the box. I'll compare it to my old GTX 1080. You guys can see what the differences are in terms of size and power requirements. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so the card does include a special bracket to attach this to certain cases. So interesting, I've never seen that before. And they do provide an HDMI to DVI cable. I'm not sure what's the purpose of that, but they do include it. Okay, and the installation guide is included with the graphics card, as you can see right here. So pay close attention to this because you will need two 8-pin PCI Express power connectors to power this particular card. All right, let's take a look at the card itself. Wow, this is a big boy. It's pretty hefty. I mean, I'm surprised by the weight. It's quite a lot heavier than the Gigabyte GTX 1080 that I have. So you can see here, it does require two 8-pin PCI Express connectors, so make sure you have that. These fans look really good. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take off some of this shrink wrap here. And there we go. Wow, they really cover up this graphics card. And now for the back. Ah, that sounded so good. So wow, let's take a look at this back because it's really something. It's quite beautiful. It's metal. It has EVGA cut out right here, and it does have GeForce RTX down here at the bottom. And right here you have this bracket and these little chips are exposed. Okay, let's go ahead and take this out. Wow, such a beautiful card. So let's take a look at the connectors. So you do have 3 DisplayPort connectors and 1 HDMI connector on the right. Taking a look at the top, you see the heatsink fans. Wow, it looks really nice. And I'm telling you, this has a ton of heatsink because it's quite heavy. And you can see right through it, through the bottom. And again, we have the 2 8-pin PCI Express power connectors. We have EVGA right here that will light up. This GeForce RTX 3080, I do not believe it lights up. Let's take a look at these fans. They look really nice. And I almost forgot to take out the plastic covering the emblems here. Let's do that now. And there we have it in its final form. It looks pretty nice. It would have been really nice if these fans were RGB for the price I paid for this card, but they're not. This is still a very beautiful card, but let's take a look at the controversial part of this card. And that's this right here. A lot of people didn't like this little red kind of plastic bumper that's here. Design-wise, it doesn't really go with the aesthetic of the card, but it is there. I do think that some cards do have this in black, but mine came with the red. So yeah, not a big deal, but it is there, it's red, and you may or may not see it depending on how it lays out on your computer case. So let me compare this with the Gigabyte GTX 1080, which I currently have. And this is the Gigabyte GTX 1080. As you can see, it only needs 1 8-pin power connector, which is really great. So if you don't have a super powerful power supply, you could still run the GTX 1080, which is really great. And the fans on this work really well, really ramped up and kept this graphics card cool. As far as connections, pretty much the same as the RTX 3080, except you have this DVI connector here. But yeah, I would say that this is definitely much lighter than the RTX 3080. It's also slimmer. And we'll take a closer look at that right now. But in terms of any slag on your graphics card when it's mounted in the case, I would say there's less worry with the GTX 1080 and more worry with the RTX 3080 because it's quite heavy. And let's just take a look at the thickness. comparing them to each other. So there we go, they are both 2-slot cards, but as you can see, the RTX 3080 is quite a bit thicker than the GTX 1080. Now look at the size from top to bottom, they are pretty much the same. And if I put the GTX 1080 over the RTX 3080, you see that the length is also the same. So you shouldn't have too much worry if you're upgrading to the RTX 3080, except of course for the weight and the extra 8-pin PCI Express connector that you're gonna need for your power supply. Okay, so now that we've unboxed the GPU, let's go ahead and pop it in the case. All right, here we go. This is my gaming PC. In case you're curious, the motherboard is the MSI MPG Z490 Gaming Edge Wi-Fi. And I am pairing this motherboard with an Intel 10600K CPU. Okay, and if the layout on this case looks a little bit different, that's because I am using an inverted case, so that's why it looks a little bit different. Okay, so make sure that this little plastic clip you see right here is down. It will pop back up once we insert the graphics card. Okay, so let's go ahead and pop in our RTX 3080 into the dual slot. We see right here, carefully. And there we go, I just pushed it down and it fit right in. Looks beautiful so far. Okay, now we're gonna take our 2 screws and screw the graphics card down. Sometimes you need to push a little bit forward so that the screw can go in. Okay, now for the second screw. And there we go, our graphics card is secure. Now remember that I mentioned that your power supply does need to have 2 8-pin PCI connectors for the power to connect to the graphics card. So I'm gonna go ahead and connect those right now. The clip does face that way, so go ahead and connect them in. Okay, and there's the first power connector. Now I'm gonna attach the second power connector. And if your PCI connectors are like mine, where it has a 6-pin and then this little extra 2-pin connector, you pretty much combine them to make the 8-pin. So you kind of just line them up right here. And just like that, it kind of snaps them together. You do have to kind of hold it in place as you connect it. Okay, and there we go. Make sure that it clips on because this one on the right was not clipped on all the way. And there we go, they're both connected, they're both secure, and the clip is engaged on both sides. Okay, there we go, and I do wanna kind of route these cables to make sure it doesn't hit the fan here on the CPU. So I'm just gonna tuck it away towards the back. And as far as this little loop, not much you can do. You can kind of bend it and tuck it in behind the other cable, just like that, and that's probably the best you're gonna do. Okay, there you have it. After months of waiting to get my hands on the RTX 3080, I finally got one. It's installed on my gaming PC. So moment of truth, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on now. Here we go, wow. Pretty bright RGB light. And it is upside down on my gaming PC because I do have an inverted case, but that's besides the point. But yep, it's working. Windows 10 boots up just fine. So now that I actually have the graphics card in there, plugged in, I did want to point out that there is another RGB light other than this one right here. It says EVGA. There's one on the back plate. So if you look, you can kind of see the light there, and it's right there. So it just says EVGA on the back plate there of the graphics card. So it's just one that I kind of missed, I didn't point out. So I'm just pointing that out to you guys so you know that there are 2 RGB lights on this graphics card. The one right here on top and the one on the back plate.